Gerai, tai Vilius Žalpis, ar ne? Ar Žalpis, kaip?
Tai atvažiavo Žalpis, pakeitė į Zolp ir aš pataisiau Žalpis. Taip ir jau. Atėjom su tarmiškai pavardžių, pakeitė į angliškus skambančią, tada aš kaip prieš vedybos pataisiau pagal standard Lithuanian.
Standard Lithuanian.
Žalpis.
So how come are you related to Chicago?
My great-grandparents came here in 1891 from my grandmother's side, and they were in Bridgeport. My grandfather arrived in 1905 to Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, where he was farming, pig farming, and then he came to Chicago, and my grandmother was in a play, and he went up and said, well, let's get married and we'll learn to know each other afterwards, because they were both Lithuanian, and that's how it happened. But my people here in Chicago were, my great-grandfather died in the stockyards. They used to always say that, the Upton Sinclair book was about him. Of course, the professor, in Circle Campus did the research. It's not about my family, but same story.
How did it happen?
So he got hit in the head with a meat hook and died about a year later. And then in 1902, my great-grandmother returned with my grandmother, 4 years old, to Kiedarna, sold land because they were Bajore, they had some land. They sold Duvalatkai, they called it, and they came back and bought a like apartment in Chicago, in Bridgeport, and they lived off taking care of boarders. Yeah.
Oh, about that, how much do you know about that? How many people did stay there?
I don't know how many people were there,
So they were the owners.
She went back, sold her husband's land to Walatka, and then came back with that money, and purchased a place in Bridgeport. And
what is that book smuggling, and what is it all about? Because people wouldn't know.
Okay, so what they call book smuggling, people try to translate it from Lithuanian in many ways. When the Lithuanian language was outlawed in print for about 50 years, Lithuanians began bringing in printed Lithuanian newspapers, books that were printed either in Seine, in what is now in Poland, or they were bringing it from America, or oddly enough, they was being printed also in St. Petersburg in Lithuanian in Latin letters. So
who banned it? Who was?
The Tsar banned it after the uprising, 1863 uprising, and so when you tell somebody you can't do this, and it's their country and it's their language, they found a way to keep teaching their kids. So many immigrants came, and you always hear the story, they were, farmers, they didn't know how to read and write. My people knew how to read and write. My grandfather, his brother, they were taught by my grandmother, how to read Lithuanian, how to write Lithuanian. Obviously, in those days, it wasn't standardized, but their language was Žemaičių, the Western Samogitian dialect, and but nonetheless, they learned there. And of course, when they were in East Prussia, it was very strong nationalism pushed with all of the people that were there. My great-grandfather's brother in 1905 was one of the 200 delegates in Vilnius demanding autonomy from the Tsar. And so a lot of these stories I heard a little bit about, and then once I learned my Lithuanian, I started researching more and more, and then I learned a lot more. That's why I know more details today. But I had enough from my father that I went myself learning, what are the facts? Who was Vidunas? Who was this person? What in East Prussia? And So yeah, they were always active here, and then nationals. They were always with the Tautinus Andra, you know.
And the book you're holding here, what is it called?
So this is the Lithuanian Alliance of America, and one of the groups the biggest group. Like today, we have Lithuanian Community. So in those days, the two largest groups were the Lithuanian Alliance and the Catholic Lithuanian Alliance. And of course, my grandmother belonged to this group, and this one women's, in fact, this is the Apšvieta. Somewhere in this book is another one. All these women are wearing these blue and white juostas, and I have that still. I have it at home. And on another page, my father danced with the Birute dancers in Bridgeport, and they have a gold cup. Oh, here it is, 2 of them, and you may not be able to see it, but there's a large gold cup, and I still have that cup today. It's about this big, and that they won in 1933 at Navy Pier contest. And at that same year, this Lithuanian that came to America, Vytautas Belajus, he was angry because he said that the kids were taught a little bit, you know, dancing a little bit Russian, you know, maybe because their arms like this. And so my grandmother told Vytautas Belajus, if you know better, then you start a group and you do it. So Vytautas Belajus, years later, I lived with him for about 2 months. He wanted me to take over his magazine, Viltis. And he always claimed that he started the first Lithuanian youth group. And I says, Vytautas, my dad was dancing before your group came. And he says, well, and that's when he explained, you know, and told me the story, but my grandma told him. So I got it straight from him. And I was just on time to meet and know a few people of historical time that really, you know, helped me understand my own roots. As I remember 2nd grade, my teacher, I went in and I said I was Lithuanian, and she says, you're Lutheran, and there's no such thing as Lithuanian. And I went home and told my dad, and my dad says, Judas, you know, and so. You know, that makes you, I don't know, maybe it's because your Lithuanian DNA makes you even more angry to you know, show who you are or something. Because I never saw Lithuanian in my life till I was about 20.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Duarte, which is about 30 miles outside of Los Angeles in a small suburb. And it was, you know, unlike Chicago, there was no ethnic groups or nothing there, and just my dad telling us these stories over and over, you know, about the family, and my grandmother has 2 generations here of their stories, and yeah, so. So
anything at this museum that is related to your grandma or to those times, years, activities? What is your interest here with the museum?
Well, I was here for many reasons. One is because of the program we're working on, the Roots program called Šaknys in Lithuania. So I was looking for some information, background on some individuals that I'm going to talk about this summer. But I've got 3 books in a row, 2 books, one's not a book, that I have to finish. And even though I feel like I've already collected everything, I recently retired, and now I think I'm going to finish these projects. But I'm always, my eyes still open, because, you know, I still have so many, if my eyes, like over here, saw this one postcard with Peru, Illinois, you know, it's not the southern Illinois, but it is another, you know, section other than Chicago, with a group of Lithuanians in an agricultural setting. And so while I'm looking for what I need for the summer, I'm always panning about those projects I still haven't finished. And it's you do a lot of research sometimes just to get 2 sentences, but you get them correct, the facts. And so that's the way it works.
So please tell us more about this Šaknys Roots project.
Okay, so 2 years before COVID, so that would have been 2016, I had been in Dainava asking the Teitininkai for 2nd year in a row to work with me as a group that I would set up, some work sites at the Lithuanian cemeteries. I have a little bit of cemetery background, so that's what I can help best on.
Okay, what is Dainava for those who don't know?
Okay, it's a Lithuanian camp in Michigan, and I had been invited one year to speak at their political weekend, while it was about my project in Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma Lithuanians, and then the following year I went back and they had me speak again with an update on the Oklahoma. And then I also presented, the opportunity to go out and take care of some Lithuanian, cemeteries that need help, that no longer have people that take care of them. And the COVID happened, so we didn't do the Illinois thing. And then post-COVID, Maria Chivaite, she was president of Lithuanian Youth Association, and she went to Siberia with a group from Lithuania that was also doing similar. They were going back and recording people that were buried, that were deported. And when she gave a presentation, and I followed up with mine also about going down to Illinois, now the 3rd year in a row, I was asking a group, and she just, was so happy to help. And then she asked if the youth group can be involved. So I said, I will work with any group. Just give me some people. I'm more of a doer. And so we did go down with the youth that year, and then they came up with a name for them to do this year after year, and they called it Šaknys, or in English, the Roots. And this year will be our 4th year now. It's 2nd year in Pennsylvania, and we did two years down in southern Illinois with the Lithuanian cemeteries down there.
And about Pennsylvania, well, as much like most of the cemeteries are being still taken care of, but how was it last year?
So what it is the Catholic cemeteries are still being taken care of. Unfortunately, they're now out of the Lithuanian hands, because once they tore the parish down or closed the parish down, and they took 6 other ethnic parishes or non-ethnic and made one. So where there used to be a Lithuanian priest that would have the last say on the cemeteries is now no longer Lithuanian, and it's belonging to Archdiocese, and which makes everything super difficult to work with, because you're no longer working with your own people, and you have to, and they have insurance issues they're scared of. They have other issues, and they do mow it. Most of the Catholic cemeteries are mowed. There are a lot of monuments down, and what I see is year after year degrading, if you're not being able to fix that and put it up. But we did get permission after a long 2 months back and forth between the Archdiocese of Allentown and their risk management department and me and several attorneys. Finally, they agreed to allow us to do light work. But the other cemeteries that belong to free thinkers or to or the independent one, we worked at. One of the neighbors, the last Lithuanians living there, I was talking to him, he goes, sometimes they call that the Bolshevik cemetery. And I started laughing. I said, well, there's a lot of crosses there, and there's a lot of, and again, if something was started way in the past and some of the people were left-leaning, by 5 years later, nobody even knew nobody knew really what the Bolshevik were. That the this Lithuanian cemetery, I'm going to get buried there. So I think by 10 years later, then it's just unknown. But if you're not buried in a Catholic cemetery, you're going to be called a Bolshevik. Period. You don't have to be Bolshevik or left, because in Roslyn, Washington, where I worked at a Lithuanian cemetery, there was this last Lithuanian speaker, Pranutė Kurtinaitytė. And she was already unable. She was sitting back in a chair. She couldn't get up, anything. And I says, Prane, it just occurred to me, your father was writing in the newspaper Tėvynė all the time, and sometimes Naujienos and these. I go, did he go to church? She goes, nah, he's Bolshevikas. And then she goes, no, he's Bolshevik. Because he didn't go to church, he was considered a left. And that's one thing I think is represented today, that when people say, oh, they were left, I'm thinking, what does that really mean? Do they really know what they mean? Does that mean because they were a strong union? Because that's what a lot of times ended up being. Or were they, just because they stopped going to church, they were considered, a socialist. And most of them weren't, so I think a lot of them weren't. But that's it. If you stop being a Catholic, stop going to church, and you don't go to a Catholic cemetery, you're a Bolshevik. And that's what that man said.
Right. So which cemetery in Pennsylvania this year, and how did you pick it?
So this year is 4 different cemeteries. The first one will be Liberty Cemetery, which probably started off as being, free thinker, because there's no members left. Nobody claims it. In Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they have townships, counties, cities, village. They have all these administrations, and it's hard to find who wants to take a responsibility. But Branch Township took his responsibility, and the first year they didn't give me permission. They said yes and called me back 2 hours later and said, no, we can't give you permission. So I didn't go there. This April I went back, and a neighbor came walking out, and I says, have you lived here a long time? She goes, yeah. I go, okay, well, we wanted to clean this last year, but they didn't let us. She says, what? And that she went to their board meeting. I got a phone call. Yes, you can come clean it. That lady, power of the neighbors. So we're going back. They're bringing a truck. We're going to throw the debris in that truck. It's on a hill. It's ugly. It's overgrown, but that's what needs to help. I also purchased a new sign with the Lithuanian coat of arms, and it says Lithuanian Liberty Cemetery. So we'll put that in concrete and put a post there. We are going to work in a independent Lithuanian cemetery. The same thing, I bought a new sign for it. They never had a sign and never had a name. I found the names in the funeral home that do the burials. They always have to put a name in the cemetery, and they are calling it Independent Cemetery. So that one's a jungle.
Where at?
That one is Nanticoke, the town of Nanticoke, which is south of Plymouth, and Scranton, Plymouth. So it's just south of there. And the other one, the one I said Branch, that's next to Minersville. It's easier people call it Minersville. Third cemetery is also is a Catholic cemetery, and it's called Old St. Mary's. They closed the parish down, and there's nothing old about it. It was called Our Lady of Vilnius, the Gate of Dawn, singular, not gates, but Our Lady of Vilnius, Gate of Dawn. And so that one I called the office, parish office. It's no longer that parish. They were all combined into one. And they gave me permission. And so I wrote on there that it was founded in 1901. It used to be called Our Lady Gate of Dawn, and now it belongs to this parish. So that one is going to go up, and we're going to go, that one, the trees are growing in, so we cleaned it last year, but we're going to cut down more trees. And so we'll be in those three. We have another one that is very contentious. It's owned by Gerard Estates, so they say they own it. I have information that it wasn't. Volkavich's book, a compendium of 144 Lithuanian churches, says that it was bought by a priest, Augustaitis, Frank Pranas Augustaitis, in about 1920, just before he returned to Lithuania. So I have three families that have asked me to go in there and fix their family graves. And so it's up to right now, this interview, it's still up in the air. Am I going to go in there? Am I going to get permission? Or do we go because the families have asked us? So I'm still working that out at this point. And then we've got still an unknown day that I will decide where and when. All depends on temperature, how much time we have. I missed. We're going to Lithuanian Catholic National Cemetery. So it's Lithuanian Catholics without Rome. And that was a church that started, I think, about 1914. I might be a little bit wrong there. There were about 17 churches around America, including here in Chicago, Bridgeport. And a lot of them were short-lived. The one in Scranton is the longest, strongest one, but they have now combined with the Polish National Catholic Church, and so their name actually is under the Polish Catholic National Church, but the church itself remains, and it calls it the Lithuanian National Catholic Church. And I went to Mass, and they are now accepted by Rome, so their members are now the same as a Roman Catholic, although their priests can marry, and they don't believe in confession to somebody else, that they say it straight to God. They have 3 or 4 things that they're, principle, but Rome has accepted that, and they have now, their Mass was identical to a Roman Catholic Mass. They changed their setup, and they have the Lithuanian flag on one side of the altar, and their cemetery is the only one that has Vincas Kudirkas in it. All the Catholic Lithuanian cemeteries have nothing about Lithuanian national people, but theirs has a Vincas Kudirka in it, and and then some of the strong Roman Catholics there in Pennsylvania said, I think they were right. They always said when we gave our churches to the bishop that they could take it away anytime they want, and that's what they did. 100 years later, they did. And the national church still stand because they don't belong to the bishop. And so, ironic, but it came to be true.
Yeah. What is your take? How did it start? Why did it start, the national church, Catholic?
Well, Lithuanians, not only Lithuanians, Irish, everyone, they always felt that Lithuanian, Italians and others felt that the Irish were always the bishops, and they always would tell what to do, what not to do. And they said they did not want to give the ownership up. There were so many battles on the Lithuanian churches around America of the board members not giving the priest, power to of the treasure or to sign off the deed to the diocese. Because they felt like they would lose it, the control. Well, they did. But, in those days, eventually, every time they built a new church, like in southern Illinois, the priest there was really, within 24 hours, he gave that title to the bishop right away. So the board of Lithuanians it's too late. He handed it over as quick as you can imagine, not to have this battle. So there was all sorts of battles going on. Lithuanians with Poles when they built churches together, who it belonged to, and or if it was, the same thing, the priest with the church board, and one would lock the other one out of the rectory, or lock They built a school in Mahanoy City, and for 10 years they didn't use the school because there was a fight between the clerics and the priests and the church board. They could never agree. And in Shenandoah, you've got 6 Lithuanian cemeteries going up a hill. One of the cemeteries was that time when the priest and the board didn't agree, so the priest would not sanctify the new cemetery and Our Lady of Calvary. And so that cemetery, the Catholics were being buried in that were against the priest that was there. And you know, you had so many political problems going on. It's confusing at first. You know, I spent a lot of time, so I think maybe I got some of it understand in my mind, you know. But
who told you these stories? Did you read about it, or? Oh
my God, I read and read and read and reread. Yeah, Volkavich's book is one of the best. I have, you know, I always go back to it, but so many newspaper articles. You know, I also read either the local English writing or the ones from the Lithuanian American press. And then, of course, like I talked about, you have to read the left paper, you have to read the Catholic paper, and then you make up your mind what's what.
Yeah, okay. Who's going with you this year?
So this year, interesting year. Last year, you know, by fate, we didn't have a full group. And so this year I decided to help, and I did a fundraiser to bring a Lithuanian from what we call the Suwalki Triangle that's now in Poland, the Lithuanian villages in Poland. So I raised money, and then somebody gave me money for a second one. So 2 people are coming from there, two girls. One that is a journalist, and Julia, and she now lives in Vilnius, married to a Lithuanian that does takes films and makes it ready to be shown. He's her husband, so they're going to both come. The other girl, she's learning. She's 4th year medical student in Kaunas, but she's from Punskas, and she'll be there. Yesterday, I met a young man at the Draugas Lithuanian newspaper. He is doing an internship there, and as we were talking, I said, "Do you want to go to Pennsylvania?" And the editor, Ramune, says, "Yes, yeah, I will say yes." So today, this morning, he told me he's coming. And he's also a journalist, but now he's going for his master's, something to do with journalism. So he will be with us. Those are the 4 people that are from the homeland, if you want to put it that way. And then we have Lukas Urbanavičius from Omaha, who's coming on the 4th year with me. He's been, every year we've been doing it. Emilia Zeranauskaite. Sorry, that one even for me is a tongue twister. She's 3rd year, and she and Lucas are basically the organizers for the youth. I organize the program, where we're going to be, all that, and they do the food at camp, the deal with the Lithuanian Foundation, who supports this program financially. And then besides them, we have also returning Kraučiūnas. He was with us in the 2nd year. He'll be there. And several the consulate from Chicago, Matukas, Julijonas Matukas, will be there the last day. So I'm leaving Julijonas, the dirtiest cemetery. Then we will do that one on Friday. So he sees really, but in a way, yeah, you'll see what we're doing. He will see, because that one is a mess. And some other people I don't know. We're this year at 10.
Oh, great.
Yeah, should be all hands on deck.
Fine.
So they'll be introduced to Lithuanian national Catholics. They'll be introduced to the free thinkers. They'll be to Catholics. There'll be the whole scope.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, one Lithuanian descendant called me up after she saw the article in an article I wrote to Draugas News, the English language Draugas, but it went into the Knights of Lithuania paper last month, and she called up and invited the whole group for dinner. She's going to have some state representative there and local press, and she's hoping her nephews will help. One thing I didn't say, this year we have a gentleman coming that is not working with us but living with us. He owns or a part owner of a company in Lithuania. It's a cemetery database, and cemetery.lt, without the last E in cemetery. And in that webpage, you can put anybody's name on, and if they've done that cemetery in Lithuania, it will come up. I checked with my wife's grandparents, and we found them in all the cemeteries in Šiauliai. For 10 euros, you can pay them to put candles there on All Souls Day, at the grave, and they have other services. So it's a free database. If you want to use their services, they have to make a living. So they offer some stuff. Now he's coming as a eye-opener. He's going to be on his own. I have volunteers I found that are going to help him transport. He's going to take photographs of as many cemeteries as he can, put it on that database. A lot of those Lithuanian cemeteries on Find a Grave, they only have partial. They don't have the entire cemetery there. So if he does that, it's going to be, maybe a beginning. And he also offers, I think, a little decal that you can put on. You can put your phone on and hear the story of that person. All that stuff are stuff that their company offers. So basically, he's tagging along as a first trying. The Lithuanian community wants to deal with Lithuanian private sector in Lithuania. So I guess he's the first one coming to it, and this time with us.
Okay, maybe summarizing, how would you say, why is it important with your day?
Well, for me, and long time ago, why the first cemetery I did in Roslyn, Washington, was when I got there. It's as I want to say, as much patriotism my father put into me. Growing up, it stuck. And I feel strongly, that, like I said, even the Catholic cemeteries that I see. Okay, they look good today, but I see a lot of headstones down on the ground. They're just driving over them because they have to cut as fast as they can. And each year, another one, and 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they're going to look like the ones we're going in that look like a jungle. Because there comes a point that the church, like in Illinois, southern Illinois, where they say, oh, that's not our church, not our cemetery anymore. They quick deeded it out of their hands way back when, so that they had no more responsibility for it. And then the forest grew up in it and everything, and nobody claims it. And church legally doesn't have to watch it. These other cemeteries, I don't know what's going to happen in the future as, parishes close down, and now they've got an archdiocese watching over 50 churches, not just the Lithuanian ones, that they have to have maintenance groups that cost a lot of money. So I think if we don't go and, well, back to the question, I love history. I realize I'm Lithuanian American. I'm not going to be in Lithuania, and my heritage goes on, 3 generations, and now my kids speak Lithuanian. I hope that they someday also remain as I was from my father, that strong feeling of the homeland. I don't know if I answered that question.
You did. Well, actually, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're good. We're done. Unless I didn't ask something that you would like to.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, fine.
I'm good.
Actually.
Okay.